Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is BGFH, and I am back for another VR experience spotlight video. And we are going to be taking a look at a VR. I don't know if you call it a tour. I guess you call it a tour, but you call it like a documentary kind of a thing. There's really no interactivity. This is basically a movie. I don't know if I will be able to upload this, if I'll get copyrighted strikes on it, but I think I'm going to at least try to put it out because it's another cool showcase for virtual reality, education and, getting to know different places and things like that. So, the experience that we're going to look at, and I'm probably not going to be able to talk too much during it, but we are looking at an experience called The People's House. And it is a fairly short documentary on the White House. And we are actually going to be getting a tour from Barack and Michelle Obama themselves. Makes me really wish that we were, had him as president still. Currently, boy, yeah, that ding nut that we got in there now. Whew, let me tell you. Anyway, I'll just leave the political stuff at that. But yeah, I went through it once already, and I thought, let's just take a look at it because, I mean, this could be the closest thing that a lot of us get to visiting the White House. Now, I will say early on, or not early on, but in high school, was it 10th grade? Sophomore year, I think. Maybe junior year, I forget. I think it was sophomore year. um, in high school, I did actually get to go to Washington, D.C. for a week through a school program, and I'm drawing a blank. I'm trying to remember what the heck the program was called. Yeah, it was just one of those interesting things. It's like, oh, sure, I mean, at the time it was like, hey, get out of school and see some, see Washington D.C. and all that kind of stuff. That sounded that sounded interesting. So I went, and so I have actually seen some of these rooms in person before, and it is just as cool in virtual reality. I remember when we were in the tour itself, there was a whole group of high school kids that was going through, and there were a small group, at least a couple of us, two, three of us, who were visually impaired, and we'd gone through the tour. And the staff there at the White House was really cool because, everyone, you were funneled down these walkways through the rooms. So you can go through the rooms, but you really have to stay, within this path. They have these like velvet ropes or whatever on either side that where, you're not allowed to cross because you're just, looking at the rooms and stuff like that. Well, we were looking at it, and I remember one of the staff members in a couple areas, they're like, oh, well, I know that, you guys are visually impaired. You guys are, low vision. So if you'd like, I can take you through and show you a couple of the key features of some of these rooms. So we actually got to not only walk up to some of the, walk through some of the rooms and like out of the, go behind the velvet blockades, as it will, but we also got to kind of get really right up close and look at some of the things, and even like touch some of the the furniture, the fireplaces, or like different things like that. So it was a neat experience, and we got a little bit of a bonus there, so it was kind of neat. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I did have that experience, so I have actually seen some of this in real life. But it is just as cool in virtual reality because, like I said, you have this sense of space. You're not looking at you're not looking at these scenes on a flat screen. You're looking at them in VR, and you're like, oh, okay, wow, I can get through this. I can see exactly, get an idea of how big these rooms are, and some of these rooms I had never been in. So, and each president has their own sort of changes that they'll make to a room, put up certain paintings here and there, as you'll learn, stuff like that. But so we are going to take a little bit of a history lesson of the White House in this VR experience called The People's House. Just came out on Oculus Rift today as I'm recording this for free. And so I might make a couple of quick comments here. Like I said, I don't know. We'll see about the whole being able to upload it and how long I can have it uploaded. I don't know. But like I said, I think we'll give it a shot. So here we go. We do have a little bit of I can't read any of the text down there, but I noticed that if I move my head, you see that text on the bottom lights up. Can't read it, but I'm like, okay, well, that lights up. That's probably a good indicator of something. So I'm going to hit A on the controller. And here we go. Now this is just basically like a 360 video. It is not like I can't walk around in it. I can't really do head tracking and lean around. Otherwise the scene just shifts around a little bit. But here we go. Loading. Okay. Some logos here. Oculus production. Another logo. Can't read the text, unfortunately, but another logo there. And we are on the front lawn of the White House.
This house belongs to you and to every American. For 8 years, just a short chapter in the long story of our democracy, my family also had the privilege of calling the White House home. The architect who designed the White House was an Irish immigrant. Many of the laborers who built it were slaves. And on his second day living here, John Adams wrote a letter to his wife Abigail, praying that only honest and wise leaders would rule under this roof. Beneath that roof resides not just a seat of government, of course, but also a living museum, a home to history, and a working office building. Let's go inside and have a look around.
God, it doesn't look, I mean, it looks big from the outside, but like when you see all the rooms and how big they are in here, you're like, man, that house, they crammed a lot of stuff in that house. I mean, it's big, but here we go.
Just inside the north entrance of the White House, this is the Cross Hall. Thousands of tourists walk here every week, taking selfies with portraits of presidents past in the same hall where Jefferson displayed antlers and pelts from Lewis and Clark's expedition. Okay. We've welcomed many heads of state here, and this is the carpet that I walked down toward the East Room over there on the left to tell the world that we had delivered justice to Osama bin Laden.
All right.
I'll never forget coming in here for the first time after my inauguration, starting a new job and moving our family into a new home on the same day.
There's these giant
couldn't help but
pillars.
feel a sense of wonder and gratitude about this place, and that never goes away.
Cool designs on the floor, big pictures.
The White House is the people's house, and
we are already
Michelle
sitting next
and I
to
always
Obama
joke we're just renters here.
in the Oval Office.
The owners are the American people and all those who've invested in creating this amazing place with so much history. And what we wanted to do was to make sure that everybody felt they had access to it, that it wasn't just the well-connected or somebody who knew a member of Congress that could see this, that as many people as possible could come in and appreciate the place where a Lincoln or an
Pretty
FDR
homey, actually,
or
for the Oval Office.
Reagan,
It seems really
had made
kind of a homey
decisions that had helped to shape
place,
America.
actually.
And there are a lot of artifacts here that help you
Pictures on the wall,
appreciate,
fireplace.
in a vivid and visceral way, the power
over there.
of this place. Next door to the Oval Office is the Cabinet Room, with the Rose Garden just beyond those windows. The President sits at the center of the table, opposite the Vice President, and each Cabinet Secretary's seat is assigned according to when their department was established.
Picture over there.
Sitting in this room gives you the most diverse snapshot of the breadth of issues a president confronts on a daily basis. It's always humbling to look around this table and see people from all walks of life, experts in agriculture and healthcare and foreign policy, working as a team in common cause. This is also where I met with congressional leaders early in 2009 as we planned America's response to the deep economic crisis we inherited at the start of my presidency. It's where President Kennedy convened his national security advisors during the 13 harrowing days of the Cuban Missile Crisis and met with NASA to plan the mission to the moon. And it's where Harry Truman took the oath of office in 1945 after Franklin Roosevelt, our longest-serving president, died. I've hung a portrait of Truman on the wall to the right, just by the entrance.
So, like I said, I can't really talk all that much because they do a pretty steady
Downstairs,
narration
in the
through this
basement of the
thing
West
here.
Wing, is the Situation Room.
This place
It's actually a
is cool.
series of rooms with secure video conference technology that lets us communicate with generals and leaders from around the globe.
Got a big TV.
Intelligence and national security officials
TVs
work here
everywhere,
24/7. Early in his presidency, John F.
Small
Kennedy
room.
recognized that the White House needed a central information center to monitor intelligence and military missions.
But it looks really
His successor,
modern.
Lyndon Johnson,
compared
used
to
these
all the
rooms
other
during the
rooms.
Vietnam War, as did George H.W. Bush during the first Gulf War, and George W. Bush after 9/11. You might know the Situation Room best as the place where we planned the raid on bin Laden, and then watched it unfold. I'll never forget the tension of those critical hours.
Yeah, this room, like I said, there's a really low ceiling.
Back upstairs,
compared,
the
and it's
Roosevelt Room is
just
the
really
original
modern
location of the President's office in the
compared
West
to
Wing.
the other stuff.
When Teddy Roosevelt had the West Wing built in 1902, this is where he worked. Franklin Roosevelt expanded the West Wing, including moving the Oval Office to its current location. But it was in this room that he crafted the bold proposals that became the New Deal. This is the room where my staff and I watched Congress pass the Affordable Care Act, and where I've convened community leaders and business leaders and listened to their ideas about our economy, epidemics like gun violence, and great challenges like our changing climate. When you're dealing with the toughest issues of our time, it's inspiring to sit in a room named for the Roosevelts, not only because of Teddy and Franklin. Look to your left, and you'll see a bust of former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt next to the lamp.
Okay.
There's no question that Joe Biden will go down as the finest vice president in American history. This is his office, just down the hall. Joe has been my point man on implementing the economic recovery plan that saved our country from another depression,
I'm just looking at
and a trusted advisor on a range of high-stakes foreign policy initiatives.
like the furniture.
A major part of his
aside,
legacy
but, like,
will be the work we've
architecture
started
in
on
this
the
place
Cancer
is
Moonshot,
just,
a project
you know,
close to
especially
Joe's
when it was
big heart.
created.
As you look around this room, you can see why
When it was
America
built.
loves Joe Biden. He is truly a family man. His office is overflowing with pictures of his kids and grandkids. Joe and Joe Biden have meant so much to our country over their decades of service, and Michelle and me over the past 8 years. They've become like family.
The architecture in this place, even just like a simple square room like that, or
This is
rectangular
the
room,
place where I've
it's,
spent a lot of time over the last
really-
8 years. I remember
it's
when I
really
first
cool.
walked in, and I looked around and I thought, it's actually not as big as I imagined it on television.
That was my first thought when I went in here
It's a fairly
too.
intimate space.
Like,
What
I thought
also
this place
struck
would
me
be
was
huge,
the
both in
amazing
VR
light
and
that
when I
comes
went to see it in
from these
person.
windows that you don't always fully appreciate when you just see photographs of it.
Yeah, that's funny.
You
That
never
was my
stop
first
feeling
impression
humbled
of
by the Oval Office.
too.
You never forget that it's in this room where decisions of war and peace and major advancements in civil rights and human rights have all been made. Where for generations, the major
Okay, we were
debates of the
sitting
day
right
have
over
taken
there
place.
on the left
I
chair.
meet with my senior staff here every single day. I've met here with leaders of Congress and of other countries. I always believed it was more important to take the long view and not to get sidetracked by minute distractions, to stay true to my values and remember why we came here. That's why when I'm sitting at the Resolute desk, I look at busts of Lincoln and Dr. King. When I look out the window, I can also see my girls' swing set.
I think we're going to the second floor now. Oh, yep, now we're going to start hearing from Michelle.
The first day coming into this house was a whirlwind because it's inauguration day. You don't get access to this house until the day that the president-elect takes the oath of office and actually becomes the president of the United States. And you feel that way for several months. It takes some time to really settle in and feel like this place is your home. So it was probably around March that I started to be able to take a deep breath and feel this place as not a museum, but as my home. And once we sort of transcended that hurdle, it really does feel like home to us. There are 2 floors upstairs above the state floors, and that's where our home is. That's where our children have grown up. Our children were very little, and Sasha was only in 2nd grade, so this is really the only home she really knows.
So she'll tell us what this room is.
There are friends, there are family, there are
getting to
people
look around it
we
now.
will miss dearly, and they've done just an excellent job making this wonderful house that is the people's house feel like the home for every first family that walks through those doors, and we will miss it.
Okay.
We'll continue our visit on the state floor,
the
first
room.
level of the White House residence and the traditional space for hosting public events. This is the Red Room, an elegant parlor and sitting room that has been used for small dinners, social gatherings, and even family musical recitals during the Lincoln administration. Most recently, Eleanor Roosevelt organized briefings here for women journalists who were excluded from regular press conferences.
I don't think I can pause either.
Early on, the Green Room served as Thomas Jefferson's dining room.
If I want to comment
A
on
few
some of
years
these
later,
rooms.
James Madison came here to sign America's first declaration of war, which began the War of 1812 against Great Britain. These days,
There's
this is a
tons of
quiet
places in
space
here,
where my
too.
husband and I often privately greet our guests or thank performers for coming to the White House before we head next door to the East Room for a concert or event.
Just seeing, like I said, just incredible. Like, just, not looking at this on a flat screen, like a camera pan. I can look wherever I want.
Over the years, the
as
East Room has
either one
hosted
of them is
countless
narrating.
state dinners, concerts, and other important moments in American
Entrance.
history. Musicians
Wow.
like Itzhak Perlman, Dizzy Gillespie, Gloria Estefan, Stevie Wonder, and Melissa Etheridge have performed here. This is where President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act and where Barack signed the Affordable
It's actually
Care
really
Act.
kind of small.
Even the paintings are legendary. Dolly Madison saved this famous Gilbert
For a
Stuart
concert, you'd
portrait
think
of
this
George
room would be a lot
Washington
bigger.
when British troops set fire to the White House in 1814.
Probably a pretty small, intimate space, really, as far as like concerts and stuff go. It's a lot smaller than I expected.
On the ground floor, the Vermeer Room honors previous First Ladies who have lived in this home and blazed a trail for the rest of us. Jacqueline Kennedy's portrait remains in a place of honor in recognition of her timeless grace and tireless efforts to preserve the White House. Her efforts included securing artwork, restoring furniture, and making crucial repairs. Through her efforts, Mrs. Kennedy ensured that future
Looking at all
generations
the
of
pictures on
Americans
the
can
wall.
take pride in our nation's house.
Very cool.
The state dining room might look spacious now, but try to picture it with over 200 guests and performers during an official state visit. Took a lot of careful planning to set up a state dinner
That would
here
be
to
a little
welcome the
tricky.
Chinese president,
It's really
President
not that
Xi,
big. We've got
back in
1, 2, 3,
2011.
4, 5, 6,
Fortunately, we
7
have a great team in the White
chairs
House,
long
and
this
everyone
table.
pitched in, from the social office to the electricians to our
this would
fabulous
be
chefs.
really
As you're
cramped.
looking around, make sure to take in the new drapes, which echo the distinctive band of Kailua blue on our Obama China service, a color representing the waters off the coast of Hawaii where my husband was born and raised.
Okay. Yeah. That's definitely small for a... Okay, now this is the private dining
Now
room
we're in
here.
what is known
That's
as
where
the old
we
family
started with
dining
her.
room. As
This is where we
recently as
started
the
her
Kennedy
tour.
administration, this is where the first families would often come to eat, which meant dressing up and coming downstairs for a proper dinner. It was a formal space that didn't really lend itself to the kind of relaxed family meals we prefer in the Obama family.
Heck yeah. Relax
This
over
room was
formal
never
any
a
day.
part of the official
I hate
White House
formal-
tour. And because we wanted to
stuff.
broaden the tour and show more of the White House, this was the room that was primed for renovation and remodel. This is one of the few places where we're really getting to showcase modern and abstract art. And my favorite piece in the entire room is Alma Thomas's piece, Resurrection. It's a beautiful, vibrant painting that, represents hope and possibility,
I feel like I
which
could
is
just
an
touch the
important
table
theme
right
of this
here.
administration. But it's also important to me because Alma Thomas is the first female African-American
This is
artist
super well done.
to have her work be a part of the White House collection. So that's an exciting part of the story of this room. Inclusiveness, contemporary art, life, vibrancy, all of which I think is representative of what this administration stands for.
Yeah, okay. And now we are in, where are we?
We conclude our visit on the state floor with a room at its very center, the Blue Room.
Ah, yes.
This room has always been one of our favorites, especially after Barack was sworn in here for his second term in 2013. Whether welcoming military families from across America or dancing with a 106-year-old great-great-grandmother, the president and I have made some special memories in this beautiful room.
I don't remember which rooms I actually went through on the tour because it's been so long ago. It's been like 20 years now, almost.
Like the
but-
Blue Room directly above it, you'll notice the diplomatic reception room is a big oval. This design dates back to George Washington's time, who saw oval rooms as a symbol of democracy. The president could stand in the center to
This is
greet
cool.
everyone at a similar distance, and nobody gets stuck in a corner.
I didn't know that's
For
why
more
they
than a
made the
century,
rooms
presidents have
oval
used
like
this
that.
room
That's
to
an
welcome
interesting
diplomats
fact.
and heads of state, including the Queen of England. Jackie Kennedy added the wallpaper, which depicts landscapes like Virginia's Natural Bridge, Boston Harbor, and Niagara Falls. This is also where Franklin Roosevelt
Really
recorded
nice
his famous
pictures.
fireside chats.
On a Sunday night, a week after my inauguration, I used the radio to tell you about the banking crisis,
Nice
about the
little
measures we were
fireplace
taking
right
to meet it.
there. I could just see him
FDR
sitting
understood
there.
how important it is for a president to communicate directly with the American people. Of course, every president since has used radio, television, and now the web and social media to meet citizens where they are. And what you're participating in right now is another step in the story of our progress.
Yeah. It's very cool.
I took you to the Oval Office. Now let me take you to my private office, up
Heck
on the
yeah.
second floor of the residence.
This is sweet.
A reporter once called this room the presidential man cave. I don't know about that, but it is where I spend a lot of time at the end of the workday, going through briefing books and writing speeches, and reading 10 of the letters that I get every day from the American people. I happen to be a night owl, and this is where I work.
Amen, brother.
It's called the Treaty Room. It's on this big desk where
Night
President
owl.
McKinley ended the Spanish-American War. It's also where President Kennedy signed the nuclear test ban treaty. But presidents have fun here too. Apparently, President Eisenhower liked to play bridge here, and I've watched my share of Bulls games on the big screen TV.
Very cool. And it's amazing how each room looks so different from each other. Like shape and colors and furniture. There's, some are bigger, some are smaller.
In the residence, the
Some
place
a lot of them
that
have fireplaces.
always inspires me is the Lincoln bedroom.
But they all seem to fit together
Part of
really
what
well.
makes it special is that in the Lincoln bedroom, you have one of 5 handwritten copies of the Gettysburg Address, written by
That's
Lincoln
cool.
himself as part of a war charity. To be able to read the Gettysburg Address late at night, if you're feeling a little frustrated with the job, to see his
Back in
writing,
the Oval Office.
the brevity and the power of that speech. to reflect on the burdens he carried and the awesome responsibilities and the eloquence and grace with which he responded to the most important crisis of our nation's time on this earth. That has always been something that I have appreciated, and I suspect that on the last night before I leave here, there'll probably be someplace where I spend some time. It's been the privilege of my life to serve as your president and commander-in-chief. The country's changed a lot
Now we're back in
in
the
the 8
entry
years that
where-
we've
where
been
we
fortunate
started.
enough to call the White House home.
Right in front
As
of
my
the
family
podium
moves
here.
out, by so many measures, America is a stronger, safer, better educated, and more tolerant country than we were on the day we moved in.
And I remember
It's not just because of
being
what happened
this
in these
room
rooms.
specifically.
It's because of what happened
I
in
totally
homes and
remember
schools
this.
and factories and communities and in hearts all across our great country. It's because of the resilience and resourcefulness of the American people. And that's what gives me confidence that our best days still lay ahead.
Oh, if only that were true. I really.
Every
yeah.
president moves to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with the full awareness that it is a temporary address. In our time here, we made some great progress, great friends,
Now we're back on
and
the
great
front lawn
memories.
where we actually started.
That's what I'll take with me most, the same way you carry memories of your own homes. This is where we watched our daughters grow up. This is where I watched staffers who started with me in Springfield and Sioux City, Iowa, start families of their own. This is where we got to meet talented, devoted, optimistic Americans from every corner of the country and every station in life. Because
Look at
as
that
beautiful
fountain
as these
again.
buildings are, it's the people in them and the work that's done here. The triumphs and tragedies you experience over the course of your years here. That's what
Sun's going
imbues
down.
a place with meaning.
The last shot of the house. And there we go. That is. Well, now we're going to go through the credits, but wrap up the video here shortly. But yeah, I know it's just a movie. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure what the ability to post the whole thing on YouTube is. I mean, I know you can't just go uploading, a movie or a television show. This is kind of like that. But I'm kind of treating this as like a showcase of virtual reality because, again, not many people have VR, and so many people are going to be unable to see this type of experience. And it's just, to me, it's fascinating to, some of them are interactive, some of them are more passive, like this one, but like the Apollo 11 thing. There's this ISS space station thing, which I totally recorded a video for it, but I haven't released it to you guys yet. You got a real treat there. That is amazing because those are more interactive experiences and kind of a mixture of, like Apollo 11 was passive and then you had some interactive part. This one is kind of just like a 360 movie, but it's still effective nonetheless because you have the depth and you have, like I said, I feel like I could just, when I'm watching these things in VR, like, I keep thinking that this is really cool, but I can't help but wanting to be able to, like, use a controller and physically move around the space. I mean, yes, when I'm listening to their narration, I can look anywhere I want to, but I don't want to be rooted to this one spot. Like, I want to be able to go right up to that bust or right up to that picture or the fireplace or this really cool piece of furniture, or I want to look out that window where he was talking about the rose garden was out there. I would love to be able to walk closer to the window and peer out there, or lean into something. But nevertheless, it's, I thought it was a neat experience. Most of these virtual reality videos are fairly short. I'm not sure how long you would say this one is, maybe half an hour tops. But I thought it was actually kind of really cool, and it was kind of just fun. Like, oh, you feel like you're actually getting a personal tour from the former president and first lady, I mean, and just listening to them talk, they're so much more charismatic. Um, they're just so much more likable. They're intelligent. You just think about the current office right now, and you're just like, oh my God, the guy. I mean, I'm sorry, but this guy's an idiot. I just, ugh. But it's like at the end there, he's like, oh, and our America's brightest days are ahead of us. Well, assuming we can avoid World War III and nuclear war, maybe we can get him out of office and get on with things. But yeah, I don't know. Everyone seems to be, we're in definitely an uncertain time right now. But hopefully we do pull through it, and we'll just have to do what we can do. But I just wanted to show you guys that experience, and hopefully not get a copyright strike against me for it. Otherwise, I will end up having to take it down. And what I might do is, if that does happen, maybe I would be able to show you, I could talk over, like this title screen here, and then I could show you maybe like the first couple of minutes, and then that won't count against me, because this was literally a whole viewing of the presentation with very, very minimalist commentary from me. But again, like I said, this is a VR experience. People are not going to be able to see this, especially in the fidelity that you get with the Rift. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be on your mobile VR headsets or not, but again, I really like the non-gaming aspects and uses of virtual reality. Like, I like the educational stuff. Like, we got a little history lesson here. We've got a few science lessons. We've got, touring of homes, although those could be a little bit better from what I've seen so far. But there are tons of different uses, seeing live events in a better seating. Yeah, the Oculus and VR in general is pretty dang cool. So, watch this while you can, assuming that it doesn't go away. But this has been the People's House, a little tour of the White House via Barack and Michelle Obama. Kind of interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. And until next time, I will talk to you guys later.